Heyo everybody, Haku here with my next read-through in our series of Magical Girl Raising Project episodes read-through videos, and this one's going to be on Akane and her beloved magical girl family. So we're gonna see what happened to Akane, what turned her into the screaming guy yelling chocolate and SpongeBob of Magical Girl Raising Project, except she just runs around yelling musician and also killing people. So we're going to see what happened to Akane. Maybe, possibly, it's going to be tragic. I mean, we know the series is probably going to be tragic. So we're going to see what happened. Any predictions I have? Her beloved magical family, or magical girl family, is probably going to be dead because of Clamberry and her tests, and that's probably going to be what turns Akane into a raving murderous lunatic. So yeah, let's start reading. Akane and her beloved magical girl family. This story is set several years before Magical Girl Raising Project Restart. So, several years before. That day's family meeting was filled with conflict. Although there was conflict, there was no fervorous exchange. During dinner time in the table with a hanging stove and a hot pot set, all hot tempers had been washed away, and now the atmosphere felt cold. Some of them seemed bored, some of them seemed bitter, poking at a problem that had no solution. Since they didn't want to compromise, they couldn't find a solution to their problem. They understood that, but in the end, they still couldn't compromise at all. The eldest Fuwa daughter, Aoi, 31 years old, works as a clerk in a law office in the neighboring city. She had excellent administrative capabilities. It's rumored that without Aoi Fuwa, the office itself wouldn't hold. The second Fuwa daughter, Asagi, 25 years old, was a domestic helper. She'd do things more than anyone else would, doing high difficulty tasks with pleasure, as that was one of her hobbies. Recently, she's been into reading the Japanese statute books. The third Fuwa daughter, Akane, 17 years old, was in the local high school. She's the head of the nation's greatest kendo club. As she didn't want to shame the school's ranking, she's been in first place for over 2 years. Several years before. I was gonna say, damn, Akane, I wonder what happened when she died, but never mind, she would have died years after this. The fourth Fuwa daughter, Ai, 13 years old, was in the local middle school. She had an adorable face and cute gestures, and was known as the sweet mascot of the neighborhood. Okay. The head of the Fuwa household, Ayako, 52 years old, has inherited a construction company from her deceased husband. Her shrewdness was feared by the company's directors, and it's said that the atmosphere changes whenever Ayako makes a bid. Okay. Akane turned around, looking at the top of the table. Aoi, Asagi, Ai, and Ayako were selfishly looking away, none of them making eye contact, none of them giving way. Akane stood up, slamming hard on the table. Look in front, listen to what I have to say. If they were weak of mind, they would have instantly listened to Akane, but none of the four budged at all. Asagi grasped her cheek. We are listening, she said silently. What's that, Asagi? If you have something to say, say it out loud. You think what you're trying to say is right, don't you, Akane? Even if it is, that doesn't mean we have to obey you. Akane watched as Asagi, still wearing her old high school jersey, sloppily glared at her. It doesn't matter if you obey me or not. What matters is you don't do the wrong thing, right? Doesn't seem like the type that would be wearing a sloppy old high school jersey. I mean, they said one of them was like a hard worker at this place, and one of them worked at a law firm and did a ton of work as a clerk or something. They seem like a very straight-laced sort of group of people. Either way. Okay. It doesn't matter if you obey me or not. What matters is you don't do the wrong thing, right? While she looked around, none of them looked back at her. Even I, who was in middle school, looked extremely disrespectful as she casually placed her feet on the table. Akane once again slammed her palms on the table. You shouldn't use the powers of a magical girl for your own selfish needs. It all began 5 months ago, about near the end of the year, back when Akane had become a magical girl. Oh man, what if she's forced to kill all her family in a test together? But wait, they're all already magical girls, so no, maybe that wouldn't make sense. Okay. Akane Fua knew that people thought she was a bit serious. Even the members of her kendo club thought that way of her, and since it was convenient for her, she didn't bother clearing it up. In reality, she didn't even know if she was that serious to begin with. Since her life probably wouldn't go on if she wasn't, she kept pretending to be serious every day. Every other Fua other than Akane were quite lazy. It was pretty obvious that Asagi would be lazy in anything other than her hobbies, but Aoi and her mother Ayako, who looked fairly formal whenever they go outside, were also like that. And as soon as they went back inside the house and took off any outside world needs, they became a do-whatever-they-wanted kind of person. Even I, who Akane felt like was just passively accepting that role, she would casually read manga as she ate breakfast and dinner. Okay, so they were the serious types outside of home, but inside of home they were lazy. It was because their father was alive. When he died, someone had to be the serious one in the house, and Akane took on that role. It wasn't something she didn't want to do. Okay? It was something that she had to do, or else no one else would. No one else in the family thought of what to do. Well, there's really nothing I can do, she thought to herself, resigning to her fate. Even though it was a tough job being the strict one in her family, it was worth it. She was tired at clubs, and sometimes it was hard to actually make a difference, but since her mother and Aoi worked to earn money, she can focus all her work into her club activities. It was late last year that Akane was then scouted to become a magical girl. They were requesting more personnel. That's what it seemed like when Akane saw the magical girl who visited her national tournament. The forest musician Clamberry gave Akane's sword skills more magical power. Honestly, she had no idea what it meant. She didn't even understand the concept of a magical girl in the first place. So, am I some kind of mage? Well, that's a different thing entirely. Her physical abilities far surpassed human limits. She had magical powers that ignored the laws of physics. All of them had destroyed Akane's common sense. She also knows that she had some kind of ultimate weapon, but she couldn't understand why they call her a magical girl. Was she a magical girl because she was a girl who could use magic? Why a girl? Do you have to be a girl? You don't need to think about it too much for now. Someday you'll find out these things for yourself. Clamberry smiled, seemingly laughing at Akane's seriousness. So, I'm supposed to help people while sticking to the shadows like some kind of superhero. Yes, a very cool and powerful superhero poem. Fav's smiling face bobbed from right to left. Akane remembered her personal finals match for the national competition. If she had the strength to push, if she had the drive, and if her quick feet handling was better, it might have been her that would have won. Akane might be able to triumph as the winner then. When Clamberry invited her to become a magical girl, Akane silently nodded. However, when she became a magical girl, she didn't even think about using her powers for the tournament. She understood it. The power that she had was overwhelming compared to a normal human. Compared to Akane the human, the magical girl Akane was unbeatable, whether it's 1-on-1 or 1,000,000,000-on-1. She's heard something like that. Using this power for fighting humans was seen as cowardly. In the end, Akane followed Clamberry's instructions and patrolled the city streets. She was careful to stay out of sight from people. She solved some trivial problems. She did feel somewhat sad that she was doing the same thing she always did with her family, but it was still quite fun. Okay. I actually like that she said she's heard that using the power for fighting humans was cowardly, because where else, unless she had a different mentor, where else would she have heard it from but Clamberry? And it's cool to see the difference between, like, Clamberry thinking that fighting is like a noble and honorable thing, and you should have noble honorable fights, compared to somebody like Melville or Calamity, or Melville, who believed that sneak attacks and subterfuge was cool, or Calamity Mary, who just believed in murdering innocent humans. So it's cool to see how Clamberry's idea of this fighting and stuff was different. In the end, Akane followed Clamberry. Okay, I already read that paragraph. When she wondered if she had to wear something embarrassing like clamberry, her worries were dispelled when her costume was that of a samurai, similar to an adult kind of costume. Although it was still quite flashy, it was acceptable. Not to mention the appearance was beautiful. She did not want to be very lewd. In addition to Akane's magical girl activities, she also polished the use of her magical skill and her sword-fighting skills. Akane's magical skill was to cut anything she could see. It was a dangerous magical skill, but there were peaceful uses for it. For example, neutralizing an enemy that has a gun while ignoring distance. Using that magical skill would require her sword. If she raised her swing speed, her magical strength would increase as well, and its usability was improved. Akane had her reasons for wanting to make her magical skill stronger. Clamberry told her when the amount of magical girls had been reached, then the test would begin. Only those who passed the test would be officially a magical girl. Akane didn't want to lose a power that she just knew and gotten, but Akane also liked winning competitions. Obviously in kendo, whether it's during PE or national competitions, she'd always pull her classmates and aim towards victory. She knew that she can seem annoying, but whenever she was in a competition, she became hot-blooded. Not to mention, this was going to be a competition between magical girls with powers that defied common sense. Just imagining it made her heart beat. She had a courtesy to become a little stronger, for the sake of her future rivals. Naturally, being strong wasn't enough to become an official magical girl. She had to become a strong and useful magical girl. That's what she thought. At school, at club, at home. She continued to do magical girl activities and practicing her powers in parallel. Even though she was doing the same thing in clubs as she was in training, her muscle movements and thinking speed, endurance, five senses, and the weight of her sword were completely different from training in bamboo swords. The weight and feel of a true sword had all the differences from 1 to 10. One by one, she got used to them all. However, one day, her fulfilling days of progress suddenly ended. The Fire Nation attacked. Let me grab some water, hold on. Okay. Her magical girl activities were done at night, not only so that she could move unnoticed by the cover of darkness, but also so that her family won't find her sneaking outside the house. Quietly leaving the house, then returning home secretly once her job was done, with the abilities of a magical girl, she could easily get in and out of her 2-story window in her home. On that day, when Akane went out and home as usual, she de-transformed. She heard something, a voice. It's 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. Her family should be asleep by now. Her family is going to be made into magical girls. They're going to have to fight. Okay. She sharpened her senses. It was the voice of a human. It was a young woman's voice, a girl's voice. It wasn't a voice from TV or the radio. Also, it was a voice she didn't recognize. It wasn't her family's voice. The word thief immediately came into Akane's head. The voice came from the kitchen. They were whispering, but that won't fool a magical girl's sense of hearing. With the legs she strained from kendo, she silenced her footsteps as much as possible. Walking downstairs one by one, walking with one foot in front of the other, and the closer she got, the louder the voices became. Someone was talking with someone else. 2 people, 3, 4. Next up, the flower competition. Well, you don't have to say it. Clamberry. Clamberry? Okay, what about Akane? An orange light leaked out from the kitchen. With 3 steps away from the door, she opened the door in one stroke. The 4 girls were all gathered together on the table. All of them looked surprised as they looked her way, and Akane didn't recognize their faces at all, but she did understand what happened. Akane didn't hide her feelings of frustration. She glared at the 4 girls. Mind telling me what this is? So of course her whole family was magical girls. Mom wasn't trying to hide anything. Yeah, we weren't hiding this. You just missed an opportunity to talk. We never planned on hiding this from you, Akane. Asagi, don't say that. Okay, everyone be quiet for a bit. Akane looked over the 4 of them, who obediently became quiet. They all had gorgeous clothes, beautiful faces, their proportions were well built. They were definitely magical girls, and they talked like her family. She felt like her head was going to spin. Maybe it already has. Akane was confused, but were both of them just as confused by this? Huh? Mom, you mean the one with the shortest skirt is you? What's wrong? It's completely fine. I look young anyways. You mean an age where it's fine to look like that? I'm 20 years old, so it's fine for me to wear it. Sure, Asagi, it'd be fine if you always go out a lot. Me, I'm in middle school, so it's fine. Well, I'm 30, and that technically still makes me a young woman. 50 years old is still young, too. Guess their heads weren't spinning as much as Akane thought. It wasn't just Akane who became a magical girl, the whole Fua household became one. Aoi, Asagi, and even her mother Ayako. Everyone became a magical girl. When Akane transformed, she almost looked like a different person, but when her family had become beautiful girls, and then talked about, I'm still a young woman no matter how old I am, it made her world spin topsy-turvy. It seems they were transformed into magical girls just a while after Akane was chosen. It seems that in anticipation of Akane's magical girl potential in the test, when Clanberry confirmed Akane's family also had the potential to be magical girls, she made them magical girls themselves. The musician seemed to be surprised too. It looks like magical potential is inherited, but she didn't expect the whole family to have it. Inherited, then that means Mom had it first. Grandma probably had it too, maybe even great-grandma. The 4 girls told Akane they'd been continuing their magical girl activities. But this is quite useful, right? There's no need for any anti-aging devices. So you're telling me Akane was just going to keep this all for herself? Meanie. Akane has always been like that. Even though Akane had felt like her head was going to spin for a long time now, the true headache begins here. Her mother, walking in the streets at night looking like a young woman, had been catcalled. What a relief. Looks like I still got it. Aoi sang and danced together with some street musicians. My dream when I was younger was to become an idol. Asagi continuously stayed at home and studied all day. I don't even have to sleep anymore. This is amazing. Aoi shot a lot of beams on the mountains, destroying a lot of rocks. I love my beam. No one can be mean now because I can just shoot them with this beam, Akane. You remember that too, okay? Man, my beam's awesome. So I wonder if I is actually Magical Daisy. I mean, well, I guess that would make sense if she was 13 here in middle school, and then a few years or several years later she would be in college, which was Daisy's age. But I kind of feel like they're going to have to kill each other in the test, but they don't necessarily all have to die, I suppose. Since I don't remember if we heard Daisy's real name though, so it's probably not Daisy. But either way, yeah, like I was saying, the timeline would make sense. I doubt it's Daisy because we probably heard her real name in the first chapter of Restart, but I forgot it. And I think they're all going to die, but we could have a Flan Shadowgale situation where more than one survives the test. Or even, hell, even though Unmarked and Restart had weird circumstances and they weren't normal killing tests, still multiple people survived each. Either way, though. Akane, and there was no real rule saying that only one person passed each of Clanberry's tests. Either way, moving along. Akane's head hurts. She has no idea how her mother and Aoi would intend to use their powers. Asagi wasn't really hurting anyone, but the way she used her powers was only for her own self-gain. Ai just goes to the mountains to relieve stress. All of them were worthless. Why are you all acting like that? Didn't Clanberry tell you magical girls have to work for the benefit of others? But only one of us is going to be a real magical girl like that, right? And once someone passes the test, the rest will get their memories erased, right? So why not have some fun before we lose our memories? That's right. Once they think like this, there was no point. Even if Akane yelled out, nobody would listen. They all wanted to do what they wanted to do and wouldn't budge. The emergency family meeting that day ended poorly. Let me grab some water really quickly. Over halfway through, wow. How long has it been, I wonder? Like around 20-ish minutes. Wow, that's actually taken me longer to read than it's felt like. She was aware of the power balance between families. She wanted to tell someone what to say, having multiple people persuade them would be best, but right now this was a 4-on-1. They wouldn't respond no matter how she preached about being a magical girl should be. Should she threaten them by boycotting their magical girl work? Magical girls would probably pick the kinds of jobs they want to do. Since their fate was different and they could do whatever they want, it'd probably just end with more trouble for Akane. What would happen if she reported it to Clanberry? She felt annoyed having to report her family, but she didn't want to leave them alone either. At least if she passed the test and became an official magical girl, she could stop them from using her magical girl powers for their own selfish desires. However, Akane had no idea when that test would start. Akane couldn't just stand here and do nothing before the test starts. They were just pretending to be magical girls, but since Akane didn't really know much about magical girls, was she just the same? Did she unknowingly put herself above all of them? 5 days have passed with her worrying about her family. It's not that she wasn't serious, she was probably just indecisive. She hadn't made any conclusions, trying to rely on the test to quickly start. "Chief," she heard a loud voice calling out, and instinctively she looked up. The first-year club members were looking down on Akane. "What's wrong? You seem out of it." "No, it's nothing." The martial arts festival was filled with the sounds of bamboo sticks sweeping and rowdy noises. It was a Sunday, but there were a lot of participants. Was it because Akane was more keen, or because she was just nervous? Her club members were keen on training, so she was ashamed that she was taking a break to think of her own problems. She quickly took out a towel and wiped her face to hide her reddening cheeks. "I knew it. You're thinking of something. Worried about the flower festival? Well, it is a sunny day." "Oh, the flower festival? Is that today?" The track club seems to be taking part in that activity. Luckily, no one in the kendo clubs ever ditched us before. The first year said so with a proud nod. Akane hung the hand towel over her shoulders. When the season came, a flower festival was held at the nearby temple. Following an ancient tradition of a nun who came down from the dangerous mountains to deliver talismans of gratitude, it was a festival where women would travel from the mountain to deliver talismans to the main hall. They paid the participation fee, got some talismans, and were supposed to deliver them to the main hall. But since it was said that the first one to deliver the talismans would get their wish granted, it became sort of an all-girls race. Participants came in all around, and the local police even made sure to have some security for the event. Oh, that's right. Now that she thought about it, she didn't seem to hear anyone from the track and field club today. Based on other people's impressions, it seemed like the track club all gathered around somewhere else. Also, she's heard the words flower festival thrown around before. That's right. Without thinking she stood up. That's right, back at the kitchen her family was talking about it. They were talking about some kind of flower festival. Akane had forbidden herself from using her magical girl powers against normal people, but what about those four? If we become magical girls, we could easily be the first place in the flower festival, right? That's right. I'll do it too. I remember doing the flower festival when I was younger, so I should be first place, okay? Akane felt like they were probably going to participate in this flower festival. The flower festival participants popped in Akane's head. "I'm going to be first place because I want to heal my sick mother. I've been exercising for a year for this day. I'm going to get first place. I came all the way from Tokyo here. This is my first time, but I'll try my hardest to win." Transforming into magical girls, they were effectively trampling over these people's thoughts. Who? Akane's family. They had to be stopped. Only Akane could stop them. The clock at the martial arts building read 5 minutes to 11. The flower festival starts at 11. Even if she ran from here, she wouldn't make it. Unless... I need some fresh air. Hold the fort for me, okay? She left her club members dumbfounded. Akane ran off. All this armor that she was wearing was slowing her down, so as soon as she got out of the kendo club, she transformed into a magical girl, running up the stairs like a gust of wind, slashing the key of the door with a single strike. She had to go northwest. There was a tall building in the way, so she couldn't see the mountains. Currently it's midday. There was a high chance of being seen. Cranberry had told her that magical girls should stay concealed, and although this conflicted with that, she had no time left. She didn't want to be seen, so she had to move at a speed where humans couldn't perceive her. She lifted up the hem of her skirt as she ran and jumped. Akane had a thought. She was supposed to be serious, but in reality she wasn't really that serious. At the club, she could use her seriousness to glare at the members, and in her family no one else would be serious, so she had to be the one. She was actually quite hot-blooded, the competitive type. If she were born and raised differently, she might just be a gambler. That's right, she wasn't the serious type. However, there were things that she couldn't yield, a sense of responsibility. Akane lived her life to protect this part of herself. Because she loved kendo, she felt responsible for the kendo club. She still didn't really like magical girls, however, she loved her family. Sure, she fights with them sometimes, but she didn't hate them. She loved her family, so she felt responsible for her family. She ran up the walls of the building, headed for the roof. It was about 4 kilometers from the school building. It was also about 3 kilometers from the building to the mountains. With the magical girl's eyesight, she could distinguish between humans at this distance. There was a crowd of people. There also seemed to be news cameras and such as well. She read their behavior patterns. These people had to avoid being spotted before the competition started. If they started out at the last place and ran off to first place, that would be the best chance for them to transform as magical girls. The position of the cameras was also important. They'd have to go out where the cameras couldn't see them. Found them. Just outside of the crowd of people, in the shade of the pine trees. The pine tree branches were getting in the way, but she remembered that flashy skirt hem she saw the other day. They were all grouped with people wearing fancy strange costumes. These were the annual people who came out to cosplay, and one of them was her sister. Right beside her was her mother, and another sister, and her little sister. She grasped their positions just for a brief moment. Akane unsheathed her sword, pulling it out loosely. She grasped a sword on her left hand as well. She's never done dual-wielding sword fighting before, but if she used this, if her clubmates were here, they'd probably stop her. However, she was a magical girl. Her bangs fell down. She breathed out calmly. She swung her wakizashi, cutting off the pine needles, then swinging her right-hand sword before the needles could scatter. A magical girl's powers weren't meant to hurt people. Naturally, she wouldn't use it to hurt her own family. Akane's target was the talismans the 4 of them were holding. Without them, they couldn't win, even if they were in first place. Right, left, right. She slashed up only the talismans. Then they'll just have to accept the punishment later on with an offering to the temple. We see this Akane illustration. I kind of have a feeling she maybe killed her family, but we'll see what happens. One breath, her 4 lock bangs fell down again. 3 kilometers away, the 4 talismans that they held were all scattered to pieces and flew off, some of them falling aside to the snowy ground. She couldn't hear them, but she could see that they were screaming. Her mother looked this way and pointed her finger at her. All of them had a face that said, "I'll kill you." Akane looked up and reflected her face on her sword. Under the beautifully clear blue sky, she saw their "I'll kill you" faces. When was the last time they had that face? Last Halloween? Probably during April Fool's? She was always right beside them at that time, so even now she understood that feeling. Mimicking an actor's move that she saw in a history movie, she sheathed her sword back at her waist. She knew she was going to get a handful when she gets home. She wondered what else she'd preach about when she returned. So this is sad, because it's the story about her being responsible for her family and their mischief, but in the background you know she had to kill her family, and that's what turned her into a raving lunatic. Damn. Either that or there was more than one survivor. Maybe we'll see one of her family members later on in the story. Maybe one of them was Daisy, but I highly doubt it. I think it's probably going to take me a second after I record. I'm probably going to immediately go and look up Daisy's real name. But yeah, that's where we got with this one. Either way, I enjoyed it. It was good. Like always, good to see more development for the characters here. And yeah, I suppose that's about it. Next one will be up Wednesday, and I'll be trying to get this one up today, recording it Saturday. But if it's not, it'll be up Sunday, which is when you'll be watching it. So either way, if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode, what you thought of my thoughts on it, and all of that. Subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I'll try to keep you updated there on stuff for the channel or talk to you there. If you want a link to our Discord server, just ask and I can give you one. So that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.